Imagine this. Your child goes to school for 12 years, maybe even college, learns math, science, and history, but never learns how to manage money. That's the core question Robert Kiyosaki asks in the first chapter of Rich Kid, Smart Kid. Why don't schools teach about money? Kiyosaki opens the chapter by pointing out a painful truth. Our education system was designed during the industrial age. It was built to create employees, not financially independent people. Schools train kids to work for money, but never how to make money work for them. He argues that the academic education we receive in school teaches us how to read, write, and calculate, but completely ignores financial education, which is the foundation for real-world success. The author compares two types of parents, his rich dad and his poor dad. Poor dad was highly educated, with degrees and a stable government job, yet he struggled financially. Rich dad, who never finished school, became wealthy because he understood money, assets, and investments. This contrast sets the tone for the entire book. Financial intelligence matters more than academic intelligence. Kiyosaki believes that when parents rely solely on schools to prepare their kids for life, they're making a huge mistake, because schools don't teach how money works, how to invest, manage debt, or recognize financial opportunities. As a result, many people grow up smart in academics, but financially blind. They chase secure jobs, live paycheck to paycheck, and end up teaching their kids to do the same. The author urges parents to take responsibility for their children's financial education. He says that teaching about money shouldn't start when kids become adults. It should begin when they're young enough to form habits and beliefs. A child's mind is like a sponge. What they learn early becomes the foundation of how they think about wealth later. Kiyosaki also highlights an important mindset shift. Don't teach kids to fear money or mistakes. In traditional education, failure is punished. But in real life, financial success often comes from learning through mistakes and failures. Rich Dad taught him that making small financial mistakes early helps you build wisdom and resilience later. Throughout the chapter, Kiyosaki emphasizes that financial education isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about mindset. Kids must understand concepts like assets versus liabilities, the power of investing, and how to make money work for them. Most importantly, they must learn to think like entrepreneurs, not employees. The chapter closes with a powerful message for parents. You can't change the school system overnight, but you can change what your child learns at home. Kiyosaki challenges every parent to become their child's first financial teacher. Talk about money. Let them see how decisions are made. And above all, give them the tools to create their own financial freedom, because no school ever will. This opening chapter sets the stage for the rest of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, reminding us that true education begins not in the classroom, but at home with a parent willing to teach the language of money. Robert Kiyosaki begins Chapter 2 with a simple but powerful statement. Parents are their child's first and most important teachers, especially when it comes to money. He explains that financial education doesn't start in the classroom. It starts at the dinner table. The way parents talk about money, spend money, and make decisions becomes the child's first lesson in wealth, whether they realize it or not. Kiyosaki reminds readers that children learn more from what their parents do than from what they say. If a child constantly hears "we can't afford that" or "money is the root of all evil," they start to internalize fear and limitation. But if they hear, "how can we afford that?" or "let's figure out a way to make it happen," they start to develop a mindset of creativity and possibility. That's the foundation of financial intelligence. The chapter dives into how both of Kiyosaki's dads shaped his thinking. His poor dad, educated and hardworking, believed in job security, benefits, and saving money. His rich dad, an entrepreneur, believed in building assets, taking calculated risks, and making money work for him. These two worldviews created a clash in Robert's young mind, but it also gave him a choice: follow the path of traditional education or pursue financial freedom. Through financial education, Kiyosaki challenges parents to think about what kind of lessons they're teaching unconsciously. When parents argue about bills, stress about debt, or rely solely on one income source, children are learning that money is a source of stress, not empowerment. On the other hand, when parents talk openly about budgeting, investing, or setting financial goals, they teach that money is simply a tool, one that can be mastered. He also points out that many parents feel unqualified to teach money because they never learned it themselves. But Kiyosaki insists that you don't need to be rich to start. What matters is curiosity and openness. You can learn alongside your child. Read books, play money-related games, talk about the difference between assets and liabilities, and share real-life financial decisions together. One of the most eye-opening parts of the chapter is when Kiyosaki explains how habits form early. Kids who learn instant gratification from always getting what they want grow into adults who overspend and rely on credit cards. But kids who learn delayed gratification, saving, and investing before spending grow into financially disciplined adults. The small lessons at home shape lifelong financial behavior. Kiyosaki closes the chapter with a reminder that parents don't just influence what their kids know. They shape how their kids think. He says, if you want your child to be rich, you must first become financially educated yourself. That's the central message. You can't teach what you don't know. Parents must commit to their own financial growth to become the teachers their children truly need. By the end of Chapter 2, Kiyosaki makes it clear, wealth isn't inherited through money. It's inherited through mindset. And that mindset begins at home, with parents who are brave enough to talk about money honestly and teach their kids how to make it work for them. In Chapter 3 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki dives into one of the most misunderstood ideas in modern life: the difference between being academically smart and being financially smart. He argues that the world is full of educated, intelligent people who are financially struggling, not because they're lazy, but because they were never taught how money works. Kiyosaki begins by explaining that academic education is about learning facts, passing exams, and earning degrees. It prepares people to become good employees, to follow directions, specialize in one skill, and work for someone else's vision. Schools teach students to memorize and obey, not to question or create. This system worked during the industrial age, when society needed factory workers and clerks. But in the information age, it's outdated. On the other hand, financial education teaches you how to make money work for you. It's about understanding assets, liabilities, cash flow, debt, and investments. It focuses on problem solving, creativity, and decision-making, skills that determine whether you control money or money controls you. Kiyosaki calls this the education that sets you free. He illustrates this contrast through his two-father figures. His poor dad, the academic, believed in getting a stable job with good benefits. He valued grades and security. His rich dad, the entrepreneur, valued knowledge that could generate income and independence. When poor dad said, "Go to school and get a safe job," rich dad said, "Learn how money works, so you never have to depend on one." Kiyosaki emphasizes that most people assume education equals success. But that's a dangerous illusion. Many graduates with advanced degrees still struggle with credit card debt, student loans, and financial insecurity. They might be highly trained professionals, but without financial literacy, they remain trapped in what he calls the rat race, working harder, paying more taxes, and saving little. He explains that financial education begins with understanding the language of money. Words like asset, liability, cash flow, and ROI are not taught in school, yet they are essential to building wealth. If you don't know how to read a financial statement, you're financially illiterate, no matter how educated you are academically. Kiyosaki also criticizes how schools teach students to fear mistakes. In academics, mistakes equal failure. But in financial education, mistakes equal learning. Rich Dad taught him that successful people fail fast, learn quickly, and use those lessons to improve. That's how entrepreneurs and investors grow. The chapter closes with a challenge to parents. Don't confuse grades with intelligence. A child may not be an A student in school, but could become financially brilliant if guided correctly. The goal is not to raise kids who only know how to work hard. It's to raise kids who know how to make their money work for them. Kiyosaki leaves readers with this key insight. Academic education teaches you how to earn money. Financial education teaches you how to keep it and grow it. By the end of Chapter 3, The message is clear. Real intelligence in today's world isn't measured by diplomas, but by financial independence. In Chapter 4 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki moves from theory to action, showing parents how to shape their child's mindset to think like the rich. He makes one thing clear: financial success doesn't start with money. It starts with how you think about money. The rich, he says, play a different mental game, and the earlier a child learns that game, the better prepared they are for life. Kiyosaki begins by explaining that most kids grow up learning to think like employees. They're taught to study hard, get good grades, and find a safe job. This mindset creates dependency, waiting for someone else to provide a paycheck, benefits, and security. Rich Dad taught Robert that this is the mindset of the poor and middle class. The rich, on the other hand, think like owners and investors. They ask questions like, how can I create opportunities? Or how can I make money work for me? He tells parents that the first step to raising a smart kid financially is to teach them to think critically, not obediently. Encourage curiosity instead of compliance. When a child asks for something expensive, instead of saying we can't afford it, ask them, how could we afford it? That simple change transforms a limitation into a challenge, and that's how financial creativity is born. Kiyosaki stresses that money is a reflection of mindset. If a child grows up hearing that money is scarce or evil, they'll unconsciously push it away. But if they learn that money is a tool for freedom and impact, they'll use it wisely. Rich Dad always told him, the difference between the rich and everyone else is how they handle fear and desire. Poor people fear losing money. The rich learn from their losses and keep moving forward. Another important point Kiyosaki makes is that financial thinking is shaped through experience, not lectures. You can't teach a child to ride a bike by talking about it. They have to get on the bike. The same goes for money. Let them earn, save, spend, and even make small mistakes. Real financial intelligence comes from real-life decisions. He recommends giving kids simple financial experiences, like running a small business, managing a budget, or investing in a small project, to help them connect money to reality. Kiyosaki also discusses how the rich teach long-term thinking. While most people chase short-term comfort, buying things they can't afford, the rich teach patience, investment, and delayed gratification. Parents should help their kids understand that wealth grows through time and smart choices, not instant rewards. The chapter closes with a powerful insight. If you want your child to grow up rich, don't teach them to work for money. Teach them to make money work for them. In other words, the goal isn't just to raise a kid who can earn a high salary. It's to raise one who understands leverage, value creation, and ownership. By the end of Chapter 4, Kiyosaki leaves parents with a clear mission: replace the employee mindset with the entrepreneur's mindset. When children learn to think in terms of possibilities instead of limitations, they won't just survive in the real world, they'll thrive. In Chapter 5 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki introduces one of the most practical frameworks in the entire book: the 3 types of education a child needs to thrive in today's world. He argues that traditional schools only provide one of them, and that's why so many people grow up unprepared for financial reality. Kiyosaki starts by breaking down the 3 forms of essential education: academic education, learning to read, write, and do math; professional education, learning how to earn a living, such as training for a specific job or career; financial education, learning how to make money work for you and achieve freedom. He explains that most people stop at the first 2. They go to school, get good grades, then learn a trade or profession to earn income. But they never receive the 3rd, financial education, and that's why, despite working hard all their lives, many still struggle financially. The education system was never designed to create wealthy people. It was designed to produce employees. Kiyosaki uses his 2 fathers to illustrate the gap. His poor dad was the perfect example of academic and professional success. A well-educated man with a secure job, but he lacked financial education. His rich dad didn't have formal degrees, yet he understood how to create wealth through assets, investments, and business systems. One worked for money, the other made money work for him. He then emphasizes that financial education is not about getting rich quickly. It's about understanding how money flows, how to protect it, and how to grow it over time. Kids need to learn the difference between assets and liabilities, good debt and bad debt, income and expenses. These are the rules of money that determine who stays poor and who becomes wealthy. Kiyosaki also warns parents not to confuse high income with financial intelligence. A doctor or lawyer may earn a lot, but without financial education, they can still end up broke. Wealth isn't measured by how much you make. It's measured by how long you could live. If you stopped working today, that's the power of assets and passive income. He urges parents to fill in the gaps left by schools. Encourage kids to read books about investing, play financial games like Monopoly, talk about real-life money decisions, or start small ventures to understand risk and reward. The goal isn't to make your child a financial genius overnight, but to help them build awareness and confidence around money. Kiyosaki closes the chapter with a clear message. Without financial education, even the smartest people end up working for those who are financially smarter. Academic and professional skills may help you earn a paycheck, but only financial education can set you free. By the end of Chapter 5, Kiyosaki makes it clear that true success comes when all three forms of education work together. A well-rounded child isn't just prepared to make a living. They're prepared to build a life of financial freedom and independence. In Chapter 6 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki focuses on one of the most overlooked parts of financial education: emotional intelligence about money. He argues that it's not knowledge or intelligence that determines a person's financial success. It's how they handle fear, greed, and desire. Kiyosaki begins by reminding readers that money is an emotional subject for almost everyone. Adults make money decisions driven by fear of loss, fear of not having enough, or the desire to look successful. Kids, too, absorb those emotional cues from their parents. If parents constantly stress about bills or talk about money as something scary or shameful, children grow up believing that money equals anxiety. On the other hand, if they see money discussed openly and handled with calm logic, they learn to view it as a tool, not a threat. He revisits lessons from Rich Dad, who taught him early on that mastering your emotions is more important than mastering numbers. Rich Dad said, "The moment you let fear or greed make your decisions, money starts controlling you instead of working for you." Poor Dad, though highly educated, often avoided financial risks because of fear of failure, fear of criticism, and fear of losing security. That fear kept him trapped in the employee mindset. Kiyosaki highlights the two main emotions that control most people financially: fear and greed. Fear makes people play it too safe. They avoid investing, never take risks, and end up missing opportunities. Greed makes people chase money blindly, buying things they don't need or falling for get-rich-quick schemes. The rich learn to recognize both emotions and make rational choices despite them. Teaching children this emotional balance early helps them grow into confident, strategic thinkers. Kiyosaki suggests that parents can start by allowing their children to experience small financial wins and losses. For example, if a child spends their allowance too quickly, let them face the consequence of running out of money. Don't bail them out. Instead, help them reflect on what they learned. These real experiences teach emotional control far better than lectures ever could. He also encourages families to talk about money honestly, instead of hiding financial struggles or pretending everything's fine. Explain what's happening in age-appropriate terms. Kids learn emotional discipline when they see their parents handle both success and setbacks with composure. Kiyosaki stresses that developing emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about understanding them. Fear and desire are natural, but they shouldn't drive decisions. A financially smart child learns to pause, think, and act with intention rather than impulse. The chapter closes with one of Kiyosaki's most powerful insights. The poor and middle class work for money because of fear. The rich make money work for them because they've mastered their emotions. By the end of Chapter 6, Kiyosaki leaves parents with a clear takeaway. Financial education isn't complete without emotional education. When children learn to manage their emotions about money, they don't just grow up smart, they grow up free. In Chapter 7 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki shifts the focus from emotional mastery to developing financial awareness, the ability to recognize opportunities that others overlook. He explains that the world is full of chances to create wealth, but only those with financial education and the right mindset can see them. Kiyosaki begins by stating that most people are trained to look for security, not opportunity. Schools teach children to search for stable jobs, not to identify problems that can be solved for profit. As a result, when opportunities arise, they often pass unnoticed. His rich dad used to say, "Opportunities are all around you. The question is, do you have the eyes to see them?" He contrasts how his two fathers reacted to opportunities. His poor dad was cautious, always waiting for the right time or more certainty before acting, and because of that, he rarely moved forward. His rich dad, in contrast, developed a habit of thinking in terms of possibility. He taught Robert to evaluate situations with curiosity instead of fear, asking questions like, "How could I make this work?" rather than saying, "It's too risky." Kiyosaki explains that recognizing opportunities starts with financial literacy. You can't see good investments if you don't understand what makes something valuable. For example, someone without financial knowledge might see a rundown property as a burden, while an investor sees it as potential cash flow after renovation. The difference isn't luck, it's education and perspective. He encourages parents to train their children's financial radar. This means helping them look at the world through an investor's eyes. Instead of just being consumers, kids should learn to ask, "Who makes money from this?" When they buy a toy, talk about who designed it, who sells it, and who profits from it. This simple awareness plants the seed of entrepreneurial thinking. Kiyosaki also warns that opportunities often come disguised as problems or challenges. Most people run away from problems. The rich look for ways to solve them profitably. He recalls how his rich dad built businesses by solving everyday frustrations others ignored. That's why Kiyosaki believes problem solving should be a key part of financial education. He offers practical advice for parents. Expose children to real-world experiences. Let them see how businesses operate. Take them to investment seminars, or play games like Monopoly to help them think strategically. Encourage them to brainstorm small ventures. Even a lemonade stand or online resale project teaches the fundamentals of identifying demand, managing costs, and spotting growth potential. Kiyosaki closes the chapter with an essential reminder. Opportunities don't go away. They simply move to the people who are prepared to see them. By the end of Chapter 7, the message is clear. Financial success isn't about luck or timing. It's about preparation and perspective. Parents who teach their kids to stay alert, think critically, and act with confidence will raise children who not only recognize opportunities, but know how to seize them. In short, the financially smart kid doesn't wait for the perfect chance. They learn to create it. In Chapter 8 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki emphasizes that true financial education doesn't happen in classrooms. It happens through experience. He believes the best way to teach children about money is to let them use it, lose it, and learn from it. Knowledge without action, he says, is meaningless. Kiyosaki opens the chapter by sharing a key lesson from his rich dad. Learning is a verb. It's not about memorizing definitions of assets or liabilities. It's about understanding how those concepts work in real life. That's why the rich encourage their kids to take part in financial activities early, even if it means making mistakes. Failure, Kiyosaki insists, is not the opposite of success. It's part of the learning process. He contrasts this with his poor dad's approach. Poor dad believed in studying hard, getting good grades, and avoiding risk. He viewed mistakes as signs of failure. But rich dad believed that avoiding mistakes also meant avoiding growth to him. Every small business venture, every investment decision, even the bad ones, was an opportunity to learn. Kiyosaki encourages parents to give their children safe environments to practice financial decision-making. That could mean giving them a small allowance and letting them manage it however they want. Even if they waste it, when the money runs out, it becomes a natural lesson in budgeting and consequences. Instead of scolding, parents should guide children to reflect on what they learned and how they could do better next time. He suggests practical exercises. Let kids start a small business like a lemonade stand, reselling items online, or helping with a family project. These experiences teach core financial principles: profit, loss, expenses, investment, and customer value, far better than any lecture or worksheet. Another key point Kiyosaki makes is that money should be used as a teaching tool, not a reward or punishment. Too many parents use money to control behavior, which teaches emotional dependency instead of responsibility. Instead, treat money as a learning instrument, something that helps kids develop decision-making skills and independence. Kiyosaki also stresses the importance of feedback. After each financial experience, parents should discuss the outcome. What went well? What could be improved? This helps children connect actions with results, building both accountability and confidence. Over time, they'll develop the mindset to analyze risks, think strategically, and handle financial challenges with maturity. He reminds parents that the ultimate goal is not to raise kids who are afraid to make mistakes, but kids who can recover from them. That's what builds resilience, a quality all entrepreneurs and investors share. The chapter closes with one of Kiyosaki's most memorable insights. The difference between the rich and everyone else is that the rich are constantly learning by doing. By the end of chapter 8, the message is clear. Financial wisdom isn't taught through theory. It's earned through action. Parents who allow their children to experiment, fail, and try again are giving them the most powerful lesson of all: how to turn knowledge into real-world success. In short, don't raise children who only know about money. Raise children who know how to use it. In Chapter 9 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki tackles one of the most misunderstood lessons in financial education: failure. He believes that teaching children how to handle failure and take calculated risks is just as important as teaching them how to succeed. In fact, it's the foundation of real-world financial intelligence. Kiyosaki opens by saying that most schools condition children to fear failure. From an early age, mistakes are punished: red marks on papers, lower grades, embarrassment in front of peers. Over time, kids learn that being wrong is something to avoid at all costs. But in the real world, he argues, failure is not the end, it's the feedback that leads to success. Rich Dad always told him, the difference between winners and losers is how they handle losing. He contrasts how his two fathers approached risk. His poor dad encouraged safety: get a stable job, save money, avoid losses. His rich dad, however, believed that avoiding risk was the riskiest move of all. By always playing it safe, you limit your growth and potential. Rich Dad's mindset was to learn from small failures, grow stronger, and build resilience. Kiyosaki explains that financial success is built on controlled risk-taking. Entrepreneurs, investors, and innovators all take risks, but those risks are informed, calculated, and backed by experience. Children must learn early that risk can be managed through education, preparation, and emotional control. The goal isn't to eliminate risk, but to understand it. He urges parents to create environments where kids can safely experience failure. Let them try small ventures, make money decisions, or compete in activities that test their initiative. When they fail, don't rescue them immediately. Guide them to reflect on what happened and what they'd do differently next time. This process builds what Kiyosaki calls a financial immune system. Just as your body becomes stronger after fighting off a virus, your financial intelligence grows stronger after surviving setbacks. Kiyosaki also challenges the cultural obsession with perfection. Many parents push their kids to get straight A's, thinking it guarantees success. But in real life, the students often work for the C students who were willing to take risks. Intelligence alone doesn't create wealth. Courage, adaptability, and persistence do. Teaching kids to bounce back from mistakes prepares them for the unpredictable nature of the financial world. He provides an important reminder: failure is temporary, but fear can last a lifetime. When children learn to view mistakes as lessons instead of shame, they develop confidence and creativity. Those qualities lead to innovation, the same trait that drives every great entrepreneur. Kiyosaki closes the chapter with this timeless message: if you protect your child from failure, you also protect them from success. By the end of Chapter 9, His advice to parents is clear. Don't teach your kids to avoid losing. Teach them how to recover. Real wealth comes not from playing it safe, but from learning, adapting, and trying again. In short, the richest lessons in life come from failure, if you're brave enough to learn from it. In Chapter 10 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki shifts the focus from teaching to teamwork. He believes that the best way to raise financially intelligent kids is for parents and children to learn about money together. Instead of acting like experts, parents should act like partners in the learning journey. This shared experience not only builds financial skills, but also strengthens trust and communication within the family. Kiyosaki begins the chapter by pointing out a harsh reality. Most parents can't teach their kids about money because they never learned it themselves. And that's okay. What matters, he says, is the willingness to learn. Children don't need perfect teachers. They need honest ones. When parents admit they don't know everything about money, but are eager to improve, they model humility and curiosity, two powerful traits that lead to lifelong learning. He recalls how his rich dad often brought his son and young Robert into business discussions, investment meetings, and even financial setbacks. Instead of hiding financial matters, he involved them. That exposure made money feel normal, not mysterious or intimidating. In contrast, his poor dad rarely talked about money at all. He believed it was a topic for adults and something kids shouldn't worry about. And that silence led to ignorance. Kiyosaki urges parents to make financial learning a family culture. That could mean reading financial books together, discussing real-world examples like taxes, interest, or investing, or playing money-related board games such as Monopoly or Cash Flow. The key is to make money talk part of everyday life, not a taboo subject. When kids hear these conversations often, they develop a natural comfort with financial thinking. He also emphasizes the importance of shared experiences. Go to business expos, visit investment properties, or watch documentaries about entrepreneurship together. Turn every experience into a conversation. What did we learn? What would we do differently? This transforms abstract ideas into real-world understanding. Kiyosaki also reminds parents that children learn by observing, not just listening. If parents live paycheck to paycheck, complain about bills, or avoid investing out of fear, kids internalize those habits. But if they see their parents taking action, budgeting, saving, investing, and learning from mistakes, they absorb financial confidence naturally. One of the most powerful lessons in this chapter is that financial growth should be generational. When families learn and invest together, they build a legacy of financial intelligence that can last beyond one lifetime. Kiyosaki calls this the family wealth mindset, shifting from short-term survival to long-term freedom. He closes with a motivating insight. When parents and children learn about money together, they both grow richer, not just financially, but emotionally. By the end of Chapter 10, Kiyosaki's message is clear. You don't need to be rich to start teaching your kids about money. You just need to start learning with them. Financial education is a journey best traveled as a family. In short, the family that learns about money together grows together in wealth, wisdom, and freedom. In Chapter 11 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki explains that the environment in which a child grows up is more powerful than any single financial lesson. Parents can talk endlessly about money, but if the home environment contradicts those lessons, the child won't truly learn. To raise financially intelligent kids, you have to build an atmosphere that supports learning, curiosity, and independence. Kiyosaki begins by describing how environment shapes mindset. Children don't just learn from words. They absorb values, habits, and emotions from their surroundings. If they grow up in a home where money is a constant source of stress or arguments, they associate wealth with anxiety. But if they grow up in a home where money is discussed openly, managed wisely, and used as a tool for freedom, they learn that wealth is something to understand, not fear. He recalls how his rich dad intentionally created an environment of financial learning. Rich Dad's house was filled with conversations about business deals, investments, and problem solving. Even casual talks at the dinner table turned into lessons about money. Robert and Mike, Rich Dad's son, were encouraged to ask questions, express opinions, and even challenge ideas. This taught them to think critically, a key trait of financial intelligence. By contrast, his poor dad's environment was academic but financially closed. The focus was on grades, job security, and social approval. Money wasn't a topic for discussion. It was something to be earned, spent, and worried about privately. That silence created a mindset of dependence and fear of risk. Kiyosaki urges parents to model the kind of financial behavior they want their kids to adopt. If you want your child to be disciplined with money, demonstrate discipline in your own spending. If you want them to think like an investor, let them see you research opportunities or make small investments. Children learn best by watching real examples, not by being lectured. He also stresses the importance of creating positive exposure. Take your kids to business events, community workshops, or investment properties. Let them meet entrepreneurs, investors, and people who are financially independent. These real-life experiences show them that success is possible, that wealth isn't luck, but the result of knowledge and action. Another key point is reducing fear in the learning environment. Kids must feel safe to make mistakes. If parents criticize or shame them for poor money decisions, they'll grow fearful of taking any risks at all. Instead, turn mistakes into teachable moments. Ask questions like, "What did you learn?" or "How would you handle it next time?" That mindset builds confidence and emotional maturity. Kiyosaki ends the chapter with this reminder: environment is stronger than education. A rich environment produces rich minds. By the end of chapter 11, his message is simple but profound. Financial intelligence is not just taught, it's lived. The home should be a place where curiosity is encouraged, mistakes are accepted, and success is celebrated. In short, if you want to raise a rich kid, build a rich environment, one that feeds their mind, not just their wallet. In Chapter 12 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki brings everything together by focusing on how parents can build a long-term financial plan that secures their family's future. He reminds readers that teaching financial intelligence isn't just about individual lessons. It's about creating a family vision that guides decision-making for generations. Kiyosaki opens the chapter by explaining that most families drift financially because they have no clear plan. They work hard, pay bills, and hope for the best, but hope isn't a strategy. Rich Dad taught him that wealth is built with intention. Financial independence doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of setting clear goals, taking consistent action, and teaching those principles to the next generation. He defines a family financial plan as more than just budgeting or saving. It's a roadmap for how a family earns, manages, grows, and transfers wealth. The plan should include financial goals, investment strategies, and a shared understanding of values, what money means to the family, and how it should be used. For example, is the goal to retire early, to fund education, to build a business, or to leave a legacy? When families define that purpose, every financial decision becomes more focused. Kiyosaki emphasizes that the plan must include education as an investment. Parents should continually improve their own financial knowledge and involve their children in the process. He believes that the family that learns together stays financially strong together. When kids understand their family's financial goals, they feel empowered to contribute and make smarter decisions as they grow up. He also discusses the importance of assets over income. Most people plan their lives around earning more money through jobs, but the rich plan around building and protecting assets that generate cash flow. A good family financial strategy includes acquiring assets like real estate, businesses, and investments that create ongoing income streams. That's how wealth becomes sustainable and not dependent on one person's labor. Kiyosaki urges parents to also plan for the unexpected. Life brings economic downturns, job losses, health issues, and market changes. A solid financial plan includes emergency funds, insurance, and diversified investments. Teaching kids about risk management prepares them to handle uncertainty with confidence instead of fear. He warns against the consumer trap, the habit of spending on things that lose value while ignoring investments that grow. Many families sabotage their own financial future by prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term freedom. Kiyosaki's advice: make spending decisions based on value, not emotion. The chapter closes with a strong reminder from Rich Dad. A real financial plan isn't about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep, how hard that money works for you, and how many generations it serves. By the end of chapter 12, Kiyosaki makes it clear that a family's financial future depends on strategy, not luck. The richest families aren't just those with money. They're the ones with purpose, education, and a clear plan for the generations ahead. In short, don't just prepare money for your children. Prepare your children for money. In Chapter 12 of Rich Kid, Smart Kid, Robert Kiyosaki brings everything together by focusing on how parents can build a long-term financial plan that secures their family's future. He reminds readers that teaching financial intelligence isn't just about individual lessons. It's about creating a family vision that guides decision-making for generations. Kiyosaki opens the chapter by explaining that most families drift financially because they have no clear plan. They work hard, pay bills, and hope for the best, but hope isn't a strategy. Rich Dad taught him that wealth is built with intention. Financial independence doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of setting clear goals, taking consistent action, and teaching those principles to the next generation. He defines a family financial plan as more than just budgeting or saving. It's a roadmap for how a family earns, manages, grows, and transfers wealth. The plan should include financial goals, investment strategies, and a shared understanding of values, what money means to the family, and how it should be used. For example, is the goal to retire early, to fund education, to build a business, or to leave a legacy? When families define that purpose, every financial decision becomes more focused. Kiyosaki emphasizes that the plan must include education as an investment. Parents should continually improve their own financial knowledge and involve their children in the process. He believes that the family that learns together stays financially strong together. When kids understand their family's financial goals, they feel empowered to contribute and make smarter decisions as they grow up. He also discusses the importance of assets over income. Most people plan their lives around earning more money through jobs, but the rich plan around building and protecting assets that generate cash flow. A good family financial strategy includes acquiring assets like real estate, businesses, and investments that create ongoing income streams. That's how wealth becomes sustainable and not dependent on one person's labor. Kiyosaki urges parents to also plan for the unexpected. Life brings economic downturns, job losses, health issues, and market changes. A solid financial plan includes emergency funds, insurance, and diversified investments. Teaching kids about risk management prepares them to handle uncertainty with confidence instead of fear. He warns against the consumer trap, the habit of spending on things that lose value while ignoring investments that grow. Many families sabotage their own financial future by prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term freedom. Kiyosaki's advice: make spending decisions based on value, not emotion. The chapter closes with a strong reminder from Rich Dad. A real financial plan isn't about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep, how hard that money works for you, and how many generations it serves. By the end of Chapter 12, Kiyosaki makes it clear that a family's financial future depends on strategy, not luck. The richest families aren't just those with money. They're the ones with purpose, education, and a clear plan for the generations ahead. In short, don't just prepare money for your children. Prepare your children for money.